that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Today I have for you Fate of the Jedi, Book 3, by the evil and hates all of Star Wars and wants to ruin it for all of time and space. Troy Denning. The Hitler of Star Wars, because oh my god, he writes books that not everybody likes. It's horrendous. He's like some sort of monster or something. Speaking of monsters, we have Abyss, which is a pretty good book. Again, for all the flaws that I found in my reread of Legacy of the Force, I still had a significantly more fun time with it this far in. Same with, especially with New Jedi Order. Early on, it was banger after banger after banger, so I didn't have too much of an issue with that either. But here in Fate, there's like so much good that I can recognize, but like nothing's like sending me to a galaxy far, far away. Like I still know that I'm just like reading a story, which I always do, but it's just I don't know. But the problem of the Jedi going crazy continues to be a thing. Han and Leia are hanging out with Alana. There's really not too much happening there. They're still dealing with a lot of stuff back on Coruscant. A lot of people are just kind of stuck on Coruscant right now. Further progression of the politics with the Jedi versus the government. Vestara, however you want to say her name, she's with the Sith, and they reach this planet, which just so happens to have this mysterious being on it, referred to as Abeloth. Well, the most interesting part of this entire book takes place with Luke and Ben, as they travel to the land beyond shadows, and get to see a bunch of things that I'll talk about in spoilers, but that was by far the best part of the entire book. So it continues to be good. Like, objectively, it's written fine. It's good. It's intriguing as long as you're not trying to read this in bad faith, because there's being overly positive. There's being actually genuinely honest critiquing it, and then there's being overtly negative, which is just in bad faith. Because usually most things aren't truly horrible and horrendous, except for a few things. So, I'm trying my best to be in good faith and to be honest and critical about it. And it is good, but it also is not hooking me personally. It is not enthralling me throughout. There are little nuggets and spurts throughout, but nothing's really hammering it home for me. But yeah, we get more information about Jason. We get more wonderful, again, the best relationship dynamic so far has been Ben and Luke, father and son. Dala stuff is, to me, super interesting. I enjoy Dala a lot. But again, it's just, I don't know what it is about this series. Nothing is really hooking me in to this plot. It's not a bad plot. I want to stress that it's actually pretty good. This whole structure may even be better than Legacy of the Force in some ways, but it is not enchanting me. It is not holding my attention. So, it is what it is. But Abyss is still a solid read, despite what I'm saying, and should be given a chance. So go check it out. I'm giving you some spoilers. If you don't want those, leave. One of the first things I want to mention that was something that made me genuinely really happy was that Raynar Thal becomes kind of an important character again. It was really cool to see him be kind of semi-normal now. As we deal more with this Abeloth entity, we deal a lot with people feeling loneliness and longing and possessiveness, which are all traits of this being named Abeloth. Now again, Abeloth is mysterious, and she remains mysterious throughout, but she never really seems the world-ending threat that she probably should be. And if it were not for supernatural encounters, I would not care about her as much. But it is interesting with that context. But even without the context, in this particular book, they do a good job of setting up this mystery of who she is. Dala gets the idea that she should hire Mandalorians to beat up the Jedi. So that's a plot thread that will be followed up with in future books. We can see Jaden Core, which is pretty epic. He doesn't have too much to do, but he's in here. And again, Dala continues to be this wonderful character. You know, people always hate on Dala because they hate Kevin J. Anderson. But she's vastly more interesting than Izard ever was. Izard was as one note as they come in terms of a female villain. Dala was a concubine to Tarkin. She then rises up during the Jedi Academy trilogy, only to fail. Comes back swinging a Darksaber, only to fail. Only to find the lost love of her life in Planet of Twilight. And to be virtually unheard of for all of New Jedi Order, but she most definitely heard about it, most definitely experienced it. It was a thing that affected everyone. To lose her love. Not to Vong, but to the Moths. To come back into power at the end of Legacy of the Force. And by this point, Dala isn't even a villain. Not really. She's antagonistic. But at this point, she's decidedly, in my opinion, a good guy with flawed moral reasoning and drive. At the same time, everything she says from a secular perspective is correct. You don't want a bunch of Christians or Muslims or whatever running around doing absolutely whatever they want. You know. I mean, we have morals in our books, right? But they go, oh, well, I shot that guy in the bar. It was, my religion says it's okay. You know. It wouldn't, by the way. It would say that's wrong, but just for the record. But you know, that's what the Jedi kind of do. Well, the Force. It was okay, and they're probably right because we live in the Star Wars universe. But regardless, to the average person, that's an abuse of power. So I get it. I completely get Dala's perspective, and I understand it, and I think it's really compelling. So Dala has to be one of the best parts of this whole series so far. You know, people can hate on her all over want for being incompetent, but she's kind of the Nominor before Nominor. Rise to the top, way to fall back down, find your way back up. That's her consistently. You know, the only difference is that people like Nominor, and for some reason hate on Dala. But, and I get it, whatever. I like Kevin J. Anderson, it's not for everybody. But when she's written by other people, she's still super enthralling. So, Dala's pressed into a corner when the Jedi try to see the horns in carbonite with a legitimate legal permit, and it causes a whole thing. But the most interesting part of the book is the whole Beyond Shadow stuff. And we get some added motivation for Jason. So probably going to be the last time I mention this, up until we read the Hand of Thrawn 45 fan fictions. But so we learn that before even Dark Nest, that Jason saw a vision of a dark man on a throne. He didn't see Alana. But he did know his daughter was supposed to be there. But again, he didn't know when he'd have a daughter. He just saw in there that he would have one. And then cut to Dark Nest, of course, that Jason's different. He's still not a villain. Everybody says that literally by the time of Dark Nest and before, he's still not a villain. The only time he becomes a villain is in the series where he becomes a villain. But one of the most significant changes to his character, like, sure, that added motivation for everything he was doing and everything, for the kind of why he was still a good guy but different in Dark Nest. But the thing that shifts him from being a good guy that's different, because it's been 5 years and he's learned a lot of things, which he has, in terms of Force techniques, spent with other Force religions, and in terms of what he saw, like apparitions. Not to mention my theory based on supernatural encounters that he saw some other things that we are not privy to. But he's still a good guy in Dark Nest. He simply is driven. But then he gets a daughter. And it's one thing to see a vision of some future where you have a daughter. It's another to actually tangibly have it in your hand. To see the child in your arms. That changes everything. And I think everything I say in Dark Nest still holds water. But this provides additional context to make that even more compelling of a turn, which it is. So, not too much to add there. We're done with Jason. We've been done with Jason. But I like the added context. I think it helps it significantly. I don't think it contradicts anything. It's not a contradiction. It is a retcon, sure. But a retcon's not a contradiction. That's why it's called a retcon. Adding more context is good. You disagree? Because part of what people complain about is that they showed it in tell, and then they show it, and that's not good enough. I'm telling you, we could have a traitor-style book written by Matthew Stover about those 5 years, and it could be the most perfect thing you've ever read. But if you don't like the direction, nothing will change your mind. But don't act like you're objective. It's just not. Like, you either like it or you don't, and that's the end of it. So move on. The Anakin and Mara scene were really cool too. We get to see them. Is it actually them? Is it some remnant of their consciousness? Is it not them at all? I don't know. The book doesn't give me those answers. I would like to think that it was real, though, in some way, shape, or form. And then, of course, with that, we get the Jason conversation. Now, Jason originally comes up as Darth Kaitis. Has like the yellow eyes and everything, but Ben says Jason, so he turns back to brown eyes. But he still knows what he's done. And he's unapologetic for it, in terms of what he had to do. He is apologetic for certain things that he had to do, for how people may have perceived him, and some decisions that he may have done differently. But he's not sorry about ultimately what happened. And I like that. Now, I do wish there would have been a bit more elaboration on certain things. And is it actually him? I don't know. But it was good nonetheless. You know, to have a completely repentant person seems like it would kind of hamper the story a bit. We'll see how we'll handle that in the fan fiction by Hand of Thrawn 45, but, you know, I like this here. Also, by the end of this book, the Lost Tribe ends up finding Luke and Ben, and they're fighting, and this just tells you how amazing Luke and Ben are. Because sure, these aren't the strongest Sith Lords of all time. These are very much average, like, Jedi level Sith, but have been raised on Kesh, and haven't had to fight any, like, real fights besides against each other. But Luke and Ben are slicing down these Sith like they are prequel era droids. It is insane. A couple give them trouble, but most of them are kind of just slicing down. It is a massacre, and it's just kind of epic to see. But they end up capturing Vistera, and we leave it off there. So, yeah. Overall, decent book. I know this is my friend Maxine's favorite book, and that's or one of her favorites, and it's really awesome. I still just it's something about it. It's not hitting me in the way I guess it hits some other people, but it's still a fun story. I'm still glad to be reading it, and it's nice to have a little bit of a more lighthearted adventure after New Jedi Order and Legacy of the Force, which were so vastly dark. Anyway, till next time, guys. May the Force be with you.